Good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar today. Today's topic is on the Omni-Channel Advantage, integrating online and offline retail. Why are we doing this topic? With many retail brands wanting to go online and many online brands, we have clients who are online brands, and the natural progression is to have a physical space at some point. We wanted to create a webinar where we can understand the challenges and how the two worlds can meet, and obviously with the aim to increase sales. My name is Rehan Alim. I'm the managing partner and founder of Alpha Pro Partners. We're an accounting firm based in Dubai, and we're also Zero Platinum Partners. We're very pleased to be joined by a good friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, Dhiren Bhatia. He is a founder and CEO of Cloudscape. Dhiren, do you want to just give us more introduction about yourself and Cloudscape?
Hello, everybody. Good morning, and thank you, Rehan, for having me here. I really appreciate being to be able to present this topic. This topic is, like you said, rightly the need of the hour. Who am I? My name is Dhiren. As you already introduced me, I'm the founder at Cloudscape. I'm also a coach over at Elevated Entrepreneur, and I host the Elevated Entrepreneur podcast. But this isn't really about me. This is about your business and how we can help give you some information that is going to help you become even better at retail. But just before we go into that, I want to give you a quick introduction about Cloudscape. At Cloudscape, we worked with over 192 brands. We've delivered 300 projects. And we've been in this business for 5 years, and we understand retail very well. And to that effect, we are actually partners with many different cloud-based inventory management systems, as well as integration capabilities with e-commerce and accounting software systems. And a quick snapshot of the brands that we worked with. These are some amazing brands that have trusted us. And we're really grateful that we've had an opportunity to work with them. Now, kicking right into the agenda for today, I know time is short. I want to get to a lot of the content we've prepared for you today. First question is the omnichannel advantage. What is the omnichannel advantage, and why should a retailer be looking into this? Second, the next burning question then becomes is what is omnichannel? If you haven't heard this word before, or if you've heard about it, but you really haven't understood the difference, I'm going to go into that today. We'll talk about the benefits of omnichannel, and we're going to talk about how we can actually get towards becoming omnichannel. And then we'll open for some Q&A. Hopefully, along the way, you guys have some questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat window. Rehan and I will be monitoring them for you, and we'll be happy to answer them at the very end of this presentation. Before we start talking about omnichannel, let's just put some numbers in perspective. Let's understand what are we working with. $70 billion is what the projection is for the retail sales in the UAE by the end of 2025. There is $3.9 billion of e-commerce market revenue made in 2020. And there is a really interesting statistic, if those two numbers haven't blown your mind yet, is that the Snapchat generation, our kids, the generation that shops on Snapchat is now worth $425 billion. So talking about why omnichannel, these numbers are really here to predict and tell you why this is such an important strategy to pick on. Now, omnichannel isn't something new. It isn't something that has been come up in the last year. It's been talked about for the last 10, maybe 15 years. But these numbers make it real. To give you some more numbers, if you look at the retail e-commerce sales worldwide, you can see the number is just growing exponentially. It is not even a joke anymore about how much power retail and e-commerce together bring to a retailer. And specifically driving into the UAE, we're looking at this report presented by Visa. They projected $27 million of e-commerce sales to happen here in the UAE. And there's another statistic to support that. If you look at this graph here, again from the same white paper, Visa actually predicts that the MENA region will outperform any other region in the world, whether that's Latin America, Asia, Central and Eastern Europe, and even North America. In fact, North America now is on the lowest end of that scale. So we are poised here for some exponential growth in retail and e-commerce. And to make that happen, omni-channel becomes a really important part of that. Now, going back to the basics for a little bit, a lot of the retailers that I work with, that my team has worked with, typically will work in one of these models. So there's a traditional brick and mortar store. You have a store and you're looking to sell through the store. People walk in. You've then either had an e-commerce store or you started as an e-commerce store. So you have some amazing websites and you've got some really good products displayed on your website. And as you start to navigate that, you've probably opened up another channel or multiple channels, and we call that multi-channel is where you are able to sell online, in store, maybe do some consignment, maybe do some B2B, whatever that may be. But there is the next evolution of that, and that's omni-channel. And we'll talk about why omni-channel in just a minute and what is omni-channel. But I want to do another quick presentation of numbers. Google and Practicology did a survey here in the Middle East, and they interviewed 10 retailers and 10 retailers in Saudi and 15 here in the UAE. And this is what they found out. 87% retailers promoted their online channel, which is great. Only 53% of those had a live chat on their website. 87% of retailers that were surveyed let their customers order deliveries to home and in store. 13% of the UAE retailers provided in-store level of products. That means I could check how much stock is sitting in your store in MOE versus Dubai Mall, which is a very depressing number because customers these days are looking for that kind of information. The good news though, 53% retailers offered click and collect as a service, and 47% retailers only have implemented ratings and reviews. And only one of the ones that were surveyed actually had an omni-channel gift card system. So why am I talking about this? Why is that? Why are these numbers even here? To answer that, first I need to explain the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. Multi-channel, as we've talked about earlier, is where a brand operates in different channels, whether that's online and e-commerce, e-commerce and B2B, whatever permutation combination. In multi-channel, it's really the brand that forms the center of the conversation, right? And the customer has to choose which level, which channel they're shopping from. Omni-channel, on the other hand, is where the customer forms the center of the conversation. So it's not about the retail brand anymore. It's purely about the customer. And the customer chooses where they want to shop from, which channel, and how that experience looks like. So to prove an example or to give you an example of what an omnichannel experience looks from a customer's perspective, you're probably on Instagram late night scrolling, you've seen a product, you click through, that ad will give you some interesting product features, and then you click buy, and that buy button is going to take you to an e-commerce website. And that website is now tracking where you've come from and will ask you if you want to be notified of similar products. And then it'll also say to you that, hey, look, this product is available in store close by to you. They have these many pieces available. And when you get to the store, the mobile phone that you were shopping on earlier will pop up and say, hey, listen, here are some of the items that are other items that are on sale. Now, this may sound a little bit from the future, but it's happening today. There are some brands that do this really well. And that's what I mean by giving the customer an omni-channel experience. Really, it's about making it seamless. So we've talked about omni-channel, we've talked about multi-channel. So the next part of that conversation is what are some of the advantages of omni-channel? So just post-COVID, an omni-channel retailer, a retailer that has an omni-channel strategy is able to get greater reach. You're able to really reach a much wider audience. You've got more engagement. If you've got the customer shopping on Instagram and then walking into your store, now they really love the brand. And you're creating that seamless experience that I was just talking about. On the flip side, there are a few downsides that a lot of the retailers have to face. One is adoption issues. All of this is not easy. There's a lot of tech and there's a lot of people clamoring for attention in the tech software space. And finally, there's cost. So where we are at this moment is to understand that omnichannel is really powerful. It really adds a lot of value. But now what I want to do is I want to give you 5 steps that you can actually use right now from here, from this presentation, and think about how to bring omnichannel as a strategy into your business. So the 5 steps to building an omnichannel experience are here. Tech systems, we'll talk about that. We'll go into knowing your customers. We'll get to know more about customer engagement, flexibility with business models, and shared data across channels. These are 5 steps that you need to know about to build your omnichannel experience. So let's start with tech, the big elephant in the room. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a digital jungle out there. So what I've done for you guys is I've split up tech systems into 6 categories. POS and inventory management, e-commerce, accounting system, shipping and logistics, and loyalty and rewards. We're going to go through that one by one. When I talk about POS and inventory, what I'm talking about is your first foot in the door in your retail store. You probably already have a POS and inventory management system. But if you don't, then here are some examples of some leading point of sale and inventory management systems. We work with a few of these and we really love these systems. We think these are tier one systems that operate in a big part of the world and offer a lot of the features that a retailer already need. Now, there may be some other systems that you've been looking at or you've heard of. The reason why I've presented these for you is because these are, like I said, tier one. They already offer all of the features you need and probably features that you don't need, that you don't know you need today, but will need tomorrow. And they offer that seamless integration with other systems. That is your e-commerce systems. E-commerce, as you already know, is table stakes. If you don't have an e-commerce store today, it's really important to be on that channel. And if you already have an e-commerce store, brilliant. You need to look at now bringing that retail, that online experience into your offline experience. But if you don't have an e-commerce store, what are some of the examples of systems that you could consider using? There's Lightspeed Ecom, there's BigCommerce, Magento, Shopify, and WooCommerce. Again, these are best of breed tier one e-commerce systems that you should be looking at if you haven't already. Now, I know a lot of customers use things like Wix and Squarespace. Those are okay to get started, but if you're looking to build that omni-channel experience, you want to be able to migrate to some of these because these then integrate with the POS systems and all of the other systems we'll be talking about in just a minute. The next thing that we want to talk about, apart from e-commerce, is AI. AI has been the buzzword lately from ChatGPT to Mid-Journey. There's so much conversation happening in AI. And believe it or not, AI also exists within the retail space. And that typically comes in the form of chatbots. So today, chatbots are one of the critical pieces of how you can bring AI into your business. AI stands for artificial intelligence. And you want to leverage that because, again, there was a survey done. And the survey said that 73% people prefer chatbots as opposed to filling a form after hours. 75% people that businesses that surveyed believe that chatbots are here to stay, are going to get better, faster, and more accurate, and are going to be able to handle more issues. And finally, 73% companies that offer self-service options like chatbots are being proactive about customer service. If this isn't what we are talking about in omnichannel, then I don't know what is. It's really about leveraging these trends. It's about understanding that something as simple as chatbots can bring a lot of horsepower into your omnichannel strategy. And this is not very hard to do. This is actually very easy. There are so many different software systems. Even Shopify these days will offer automated chatbots you can put in with the click of a button. The next tech system that I want to jump into is the accounting system. Now, accounting systems typically are boring, they're very manual, but today there is a new breed of accounting systems. Systems like Zoho Books, Xero, Myob, QuickBooks. Rehan talked about Xero, they being this platinum partner for Xero. It is a brilliant piece of software, as all of these are. Why are they brilliant? Again,
Sorry, I was going to say accounting softwares are not boring.
thank you. Some people consider them to be boring. And rightly though, I think the old accounting systems like Tally, very boring interface. But now with the new look that Xero has, the ones that QuickBooks has, it's made accounting fun again. You can go in, pull in some beautiful reports, all of the click of a button. But sticking to our omni-channel conversation, these systems are critical because these then interface with your e-commerce system, they interface with your inventory management system, they interface with your point of sale system, and they bring all of that data into one place. And you'll see why this becomes really important in just a few more minutes as I move forward. Other than tech systems, you also be wanting looking at your shipping and logistics provider. So there are some really cool systems today that do shipping and logistics for you. One is ShipEdge, ShipHero. Both of these are great systems that you can bring if you have a much more larger footprint in that you need to pack, shop, and pack and ship your pick, pack, and ship your items. You can probably do them through things like Ship Edge and Ship Hero, or you can leverage the power of a third party e-commerce fulfillment center. There's one here in Dubai that we work with called Automizer Brilliant. very knowledgeable, and have very smart tech systems. IQ is another one. And finally, talking about tech systems, there is the last category, which is loyalty and rewards. These systems are even more important, in my opinion, today than POS and e-commerce, because talking about that omni-channel strategy, you want to be able to build that relationship with a customer. You want to be able to get that customer to come back. And if you apply Pareto's law, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. Loyalty and rewards are that ability to bring that 20% back into your business again and again so you can drive 80% of your revenue from them. And what are some of the systems that you can use to make that happen? Kangaroo, Eber, Marcelo, Lightspeed Loyalty. Again, I've chosen these systems specifically because these integrate already with your point of sale system, they integrate with your accounting system, they integrate with your e-commerce system. And when you have the tech stack sorted, you've really now got a control on your foundational pieces. Now you've got the basics in place. So if you've got your tech sorted, what's the next step after that? This is knowing your customer. So coming back to those 5 steps about building that seamless experience, second step is knowing your customer. So how do you get to know your customer? Well, start to leverage channels like Instagram, their notification process through Instagram, being able to use something called in-store beacon. So in-store beacons are something that Apple popularized about 10 years ago. And now I don't know if you guys know this, but anytime you walk into an Apple store, without you even lifting your phone or opening your phone, Apple knows that you're in there, you're shopping around, and where in the store you're going, where you are. So something like that today is not very complex in terms of buying and setting up. It's very easy. It's very simple. But bringing that into your business will allow you to know where they're shopping in store and where if they're shopping online, what are they looking at? So you can start to build that database. Next, after that, is the shared data across channels. So earlier I was talking about this idea of having your tech system talk to your accounting system, talk to your e-commerce system. It's all about serving this one principle here called shared data across channels. You want to be able to understand your customer's journey between both of those channels. And you want to be able to target them with messages that make sense to them. It's very personalized. It's very segmented. And if you have all of these data sources coming into one channel or one source, it makes it very easy for you and it gives you that visibility that a lot of brands need today if they want to build omni-channel into their strategy. The fourth step is customer engagement. We've talked about this briefly, but doing cross-channel promotions, being able to offer a loyalty program that works in store and online, being able to offer a promotion that they can redeem in store and online, and finally giving them content that is personalized based on the segmentation. So if I'm a father of two versus no kids, I'd like to see some interesting data given to me, some interesting ads bent to me. This way, again, we're talking about building that engagement. And finally, the fifth step is getting flexibility with business models. This, I think, is something that a lot of retailers tend to forget in their day to day operations. Being able to expand and scale based on what the customer demands is a really good way to expand into that omnichannel space. So, what does that look like? Maybe you want to centralize all of your inventory in one place and fulfill from one place. Maybe B2C versus D2C could be something that you could look at. So having an open mind, this is more just to have that idea that having an open mind in terms of your channels should not be limiting. They should be open. You should be able to scale up and down as you need. So we've talked about the 5 steps to becoming omni-channel. Is that it? Is that all that has to happen? Actually, I want to give you 4 more steps, and this is to execute that 5 steps that we talked about. And what I mean to say by this here is we've talked about the tech system, we've talked about the 4 other ideas, but does that mean that you become omnichannel? Actually, it is more a recursive, iterative process. You start with the tech foundations, you bring in the other principles, and you start testing. You start to collect data. You start to fix what is not working. You retest, and you fix those little nuances and make those little tweaks, and then you apply again, test again, collect again, and retest again. So I want to leave you with this idea that omnichannel isn't a one-stop set and forget kind of thing. This is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing journey. And it's something that you will have to live with for a very long time. It's not actually, it's not even it's an outcome. It's not even an outcome. It's a strategy. So and it's constantly changing. So you want to be able to stay on top of that, which is why I think these four steps are a great reminder that it's not a set it like an alarm and forget it. With that, I want to quickly bring us back to how we can help as Cloudscape. So I mentioned earlier, we are already partners with all of these different systems, and we believe that the future of retail is seamless. Whether it's a seamless customer experience, whether it's a seamless loyalty experience, whether it's a seamless shopping experience, or finally, even more importantly, a seamless brand experience, we can help. This is what we're good at. We are helping our customers with all of these five levels from point of sale to integrating that with accounting and e-commerce, or integrating that with loyalty and marketing, providing them a business intelligence platform, and finally making them omni-channel. And I mentioned already, we are already partners with all of the systems that we've talked about today, and we're able to answer any questions you guys have, which is why we're offering an audit. If somebody on this webinar is interested, we're happy to look at your systems, give you an audit, and tell you what is the challenge that you're having and how you can fix that. With that, Rehan, I want to hand it back to you for some Q&A. I hope some guys had some amazing questions and answers for us to dig into.
No, I have to say that was an amazing presentation. I think the way you've articulated the whole journey from just brick and mortar or website to omni-channel has been very well articulated. If anyone has any Q&As, please feel free to put them in the comment section so Dhiren can answer them. I have a few questions, and that's based on my experience with clients. A lot of clients, they tend to take so we're obviously focused on accounting, right? And accounting, one of the things you need to do with accounting is make sure that you've got your inventory levels accurate and you've got your cost of sales accurate as well. And sometimes there are easy solutions, but we feel as if they're not comprehensive enough because obviously with inventory, it's not just a matter of the number of stock, it's how old it is, what type of, what serial number they are, where are they located and all of that. And so many clients, they use, for example, Shopify inventory, and Shopify inventory is not really a robust inventory. It gives you only the inventory from a sales perspective, but not necessarily from an inventory or cost of sales perspective. Can you give me like some, can we just go down a little bit more deeper just to benefit our audience as well? Because we have many clients who are in retail and e-commerce.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
talk more if we could pinpoint, if we could talk more about an inventory system, how would you, how can someone invest that money into one, and what kind of return outcomes do they get and return do they get by investing in an inventory system?
Yeah, great question, Ram, and thank you for that. I wasn't sure how deep we could go, but I love this. So let me just maybe start at the very first question that you asked. If someone already has an e-commerce store, they're obviously having challenges with it, like you rightly pointed out, with what's coming through to the accounting system. And that's simply because the e-commerce system that they're using is not necessarily an inventory management system. An e-commerce system only allows them to display their goods with some really clean themes and a really good aesthetic, and they're able to collect the payment and collect the customer information. That doesn't mean that the system is an inventory management system, number one. So the reason why I'm on this slide specifically is that if you have an e-commerce system, doesn't mean that you have an inventory system, which means you need to invest in an inventory management system so that you can get all of the good stuff that you, Rehan, were talking about: stock aging, sell-through reports. All of these key metrics can only be given to you through an inventory management system. And by integrating Shopify or WooCommerce into something like Unleashed or Deer, even Lightspeed, will be able to make the inventory system your master book of record. Typically, your e-commerce system is not going to be your master book of record because it's not an inventory management system to begin with. It's merely a channel through which you can sell. But investing in an inventory management system allows you to solve that foundational level of problem that you, Rehan, had mentioned about incorrect data or missing data even. Once you've got this system in place, you can then export all of that data into your accounting system, which will be a lot more robust. It will be a lot more comprehensive because now the inventory management system is doing its thing. calculating how old the stock is, calculating how quickly you move through stock, where in the warehouse the stock is even located, bin numbers, shelf numbers, aging of stock. All of these important pieces even tell you to a certain extent tell you what you should order by when in terms of lead times, and even predict how long you can actually last on a specific item quantity. So there's some really cool features that these systems offer that e-commerce systems don't offer, and unfortunately a lot of the clients that even we work with think that once they have an e-commerce system, that's the end, but that's not. And then second question that you asked, Rehan, regarding the return on investment. Here's the way I see it. If a retailer is holding, say, 1 million dirhams in inventory, if they are able to get even 20% more sales because of better data, better customer experience, that software has paid for itself. And I know sometimes this doesn't seem intuitive, because when you're looking at a software price, oh, it's $200 a month, or it's $150 a month. It seems like a chunky number, but I think it needs to be placed into perspective. If you can drive that 1 million dirhams worth of stock, get 20% more business. This is not a big number by any means. Even save yourself from shrinkage, wasted stock. A lot of the challenges that I had as a retailer, and I've seen other retailers, is they tend to split stock for e-commerce and then they keep stock separate for retail. That is blocking your inventory. That is taking inventory and just locking it in a room, and it's sitting there being wasted till hopefully someone will buy it online. When you have a system like this in place, you don't need to do that. You don't need to lock out inventory separately for retail and separately for e-commerce. You put everything in this system, either in Unleashed, and then Unleashed knows if it's sold online, it'll minus it from your e-commerce store. If it's sold in your online store, it'll minus it from your offline store. And if it's sold offline, it'll minus it online. So that it goes back to that word that we've been using quite a lot this today. It's about seamless. This
Mm.
system will make it seamless. And there's your return on investment. So I hope I've answered your question, Rahab.
Yeah, no, no, thank you very much for that. We've got one question from a lady called Karima. She's saying, hello, what's the best way to manage stock inventory, please? And how important is the role of an e-commerce merchandiser in managing the e-com platform?
Oh, I love that question. There's two questions. There's two parts of that question. First part is, how do you manage inventory? And I think I have a big smile on my face because I learned this lesson the hard way. My wife and I ran a retail store for 5 years, and we realized inventory management is so much more than buying from your supplier and then displaying it and then letting someone buy. I think there's two halves to inventory management. So the first half is letting the system know what you are buying and when you are buying it. And the second half is letting the system know what is being sold, what is moving, whether that's through your e-commerce channel, whether that's through your consignment channel or your wholesale channel. The system has to have knowledge of both. It needs to know what's coming in and what's in stock. And finally, it needs to know what you are selling so that it can give you accurate inventory numbers. There is a caveat here, and this is something that a lot of retailers don't do, is they don't inventory count. Inventory counting is about telling the system what you have at any given point in time. A lot can happen between you buying and you actually selling. Things go wasted, they get lost, they get damaged, they get thrown, they get used for marketing purposes, they get used for promotional channels. The system doesn't know that. And then slowly what happens, that starts to build up. And now the system is out of sync, it's out of whack because it doesn't have the right number. So with that happening once, it just is a declining mountain from there on. It's just going to get worse. Your cost averages will get wrong. Your profitability reports will get wrong. So just to recap, telling the system what you're buying, which means it starts with making purchase orders in the system, telling the system what you've got when you've received it, because a lot of retailers skip that. They don't tell the system, hey, listen, we received these inventory. And finally, the third one is telling the system what you're selling. Now, whether you're selling at a pop-up, you're doing it by hand, or you sold it online, letting the system know what you sold are the two pieces. The three, and the fourth step is the inventory counting. Counting your inventory, whether every fortnight, every month, maybe even every week, depending how busy you are, very key parts of inventory management. And the second question, very much that you asked was, what is the role of an e-commerce merchandiser? That's an interesting question. I think merchandising in offline we used to work with a merchandiser in our store. She, beautiful lady, really talented, would come in and help us, tell us how to place those goods in the store, how to make it more attractive to the customer, even dressing up the window so that the window dressing will actually make it very appealing for the customer to come in. That same sort of concept now applies to your e-commerce store. If you think of e-commerce store as a storefront in a mall, it needs to be kept updated. It needs to be kept refreshed. It needs to be aesthetically pleasing. So maybe that's about changing the photos, changing the products, changing the look and feel of the homepage so that it starts to look fresh every time a customer lands. So an e-commerce merchandiser can help you with that idea about how to really grab that customer to enter your store. Once you've entered the store, the storefront, or in this case, the e-commerce website, then it's the magic of the product, it's the magic of the shopping experience that the platform will offer. And we've talked about the platforms already. Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, all of these are built for that. You don't have to think about this at all. Because I know a lot of guys will use something like OpenCommerce or PHP and they'll try to build this themselves in order to save some money. But what they're forsaking is this whole intelligence that these brands already have around what a good shopping experience looks like. So I hope I've answered your question.
No, I think you've answered very articulately. So thank you very much for that, Dhiren. We've got another question from a lady called Jo, who's a friend of mine. She's asked, thank you. As an accountant, as well as an inventory issue, which I mentioned, the main issue that as an accountant we have is we have multiple payments that clients have. You know, when you're in e-commerce, you've got payments via Stripe, cash, international. What is there anything that we have, or is there any apps out there that can make it more seamless in terms of the reconciliation? I know that there was an app that integrates with Amazon and Shopify. I think it's called I think it's to do with something with my books or something like that, clean up my books or something like that, that I came across. But from obviously this region is not as mature as say the
Yep.
US, really, Europe. Is there anything that you've come across that kind of helps that process for this region specifically?
No, not necessarily from a accounting add-on perspective. I will come back to my perspective about investing in an inventory management system. So, Joe, if you have a client that doesn't have an inventory system in place, I would really encourage them to look at that again. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but the point really needs to be driven home. An e-commerce system is not an inventory management system. In fact, it's barely one, if anything. But let me talk about how an inventory management system will help solve that problem that Joe is talking about. We have a lot of our clients that have an e-commerce store and that have an inventory system at the back. All of the sales from the e-commerce store actually don't get synced to zero directly, or they don't go into the QuickBooks system directly. They actually come into the inventory management system first. Inventory management system will collate, reconcile, tell you, it'll know how they paid, who paid, when they paid, and then take that reconciled information and send it to the accounting system, which is a much more cleaner way for the accounting team to manage this because now they've got a very clear and a formatted set of data coming into the accounting system versus which is not the case with Shopify or BigCommerce directly because they just send every sale as it happens into the e-commerce into the accounting system. And now you've got to go and do all of the payment sorting manually, whereas in an inventory management system, that is done first before this information is sent over to the accounting system. So I hope that answers your question, Joe.
Thanks for that, Darren. Karima just asked a follow-up question. I think this is a clarification. So you mentioned the need to send stock info to the system. You mean another system, not Shopify. So I'm assuming we're saying, clarifying that the system that we're referring to is the inventory system, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that clarification very much. Absolutely. An inventory system is critical. It is the foundations of you being able to operate an inventory business because e-commerce systems are just a channel. They just allow you to sell online. They're not necessarily doing any sort of computation on your inventory. Yes. We're talking about systems like Dia, Unleashed, Lightspeed, all of these.
Thanks for that. I'm going to ask one last question from my side. If we can just go back to the omni-channel slide that you mentioned, I think the opportunity for a lot of brands in this region, I think if we should just go a bit more,
Was it this
yeah,
one here?
that's one, yeah. I think the opportunity. So I'm going to move away from process. I'm going to more ask a question more about sales and
Yep.
growing businesses. Right? There are many businesses, as you mentioned earlier, that are not having an integrating omni-channel approach, and these are big mature businesses as well.
Mhm.
There are lots of challenger brands coming up all the time that I come across in Saudi and in the UAE as well, which means that their ability to catch up very fast based on having these systems in place will enable them to grow and capture as much market share as possible. In your opinion, how long would this kind of thing take to get set up? And do you think it's complicated, or do you think it's something that nowadays with the latest tech out there is very much seamless to get all set up in view to get to a position where you can increase your sales and challenge the established brands that have been around for quite some time?
Yeah, I love that question, Rehan. Thank you for that. So I think I'd want to answer your question with not necessarily a direct answer, but there's an answer in that for any brand, whether you're established or you're a new brand, what is the difference between a brand that is the one that you were referring to, as you call challenger brands, Rehan, is that they've realized how they can put the customer in the center of the equation. So a really good example of this is Warby Parker. I'm not sure if many people have heard of a brand called Warby Parker. Brilliant brand out of the US, became really famous. What they do is they provide glasses. So they took the idea of glasses, because typically with glasses you have to walk into a store, you try the glass on your face, you look how you feel, and then you decide to buy one. What Warby Parker did, this was about 10 years ago, they came into the market and they introduced this entire new way of you being able to put on glasses on the internet, and doing this through augmented reality and seeing how the pair of glasses look on you. The only reason they were even able to offer that was because they started to understand that putting the customer in the center of the equation is the first and the foremost thing. When you start your conversation from that place about what the customer wants, how can we get better delivering? How can we get better at delivering to this customer? Then you tend to come up with all of these new ways of doing business. Maybe this really a cool way of getting your customer to try something. Another good example is sleep brands. I don't know, Casper, the Casper mattress brand, if a lot of you have heard about them, went bonkers a few years ago because they were the first guys that even shipped a mattress to your home without you actually sleeping on one. And they offered you a 90-day return policy. Sounds really easy, but it comes back to this idea of putting the customer in the center and then figuring out how to get this customer to buy. So to
Yeah.
answer your question, Rehan, I know that wasn't the direct answer, but my point being, for a brand to become omni-channel, it starts with first putting the customer in the center, figuring out how to better then create a better experience. And the next thing that you asked was it easy? Actually, no, it's not easy. I have to say, and I put this in my slide as well. It's not an outcome. It's a strategy. And with
Yeah.
anything in strategy, you're going to try it, you're going to fail, you're going to retry it, and you're going to fail, and you're going to keep getting better and better and better. But with tech these days, what I would agree is tech is becoming cheaper and cheaper, but that doesn't mean anything in itself. What I want to say here is first, put this customer in the center of the equation, really make them the centerpiece of the brand, make them the only thing in the brand, then figure out your channel, then figure out what tech you need to get to that, make that channel happen, and then work on that journey. So I hope that gives you a bit
Yes,
more
no, no,
insight into.
super, super useful. I hope that's useful for everyone else. Thank you very much for your time and presentation. I think it was very useful and insightful. I'm sure there's many people who would like to pick your brain and have a conversation with you. What's the best way to contact
That's a great question. Thank you for that. Like I offered earlier, we are offering an audit for anybody who's on the webinar. You can scan this QR code, or if you don't have a phone next to you, head over to cloudscape.ae. You will see a book call button. There's no charge to that book a call. We'll be happy to get on a call with you, give you some advice, and maybe we'll answer your questions if you have any more questions that need answering.
you? Thank you very much. We have been recording this webinar. We will be sharing it as well. We'll be taking snippets because I think there's a lot of value that Dhiren has provided, and we'll be sharing them on LinkedIn as well. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rehan, for having me here.
No, thank you.